When President Donald Trump strode into FBI headquarters without warning, the entire building froze mid-breath. What followed stunned the agents on site and sent the media machine into a full-blown panic. Was this a flex of presidential muscle, the start of a legal showdown, or something no one in Washington dared predict? Stay with us as we break down every explosive second of this unprecedented moment. The day began like any other at FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. Agents in dark suits hustled through the wide marble corridor. Papers rustled, phones buzzed non-stop, and the familiar hum of low-voiced, classified chatter filled the air. Nothing hinted at the shock barreling toward them. Then, boom, the massive double doors swung open, slamming against the walls. Standing in the doorway, framed by the sunlight, was none other than President Donald J. Trump, now the 47th President of the United States. Silence hit like a hammer. Every agent, every staffer, every intern froze on the spot. The atmosphere grew so thick that even inhaling felt like it might violate protocol. This wasn't a scheduled visit. There was no advance notice, no motorcade rolling in, no pre-cleared security sweep, nothing. Secret Service agents closed in around him, scanning the stunned room. Trump didn't react. His expression was stone impossible to read. For the first time in U.S. history, a sitting president had walked unannounced straight into the nerve center of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. "Lock the doors," Trump said quietly. One terrified agent reached for his radio. "Sir, I said lock the doors." And just like that, the world inside the FBI changed. Panic spread like a spark in dry grass. Agents exchanged alarmed glances. No president had ever done anything remotely like this. Why was he here? Was there a crisis? A threat? A coup? No one dared ask. Trump stepped forward, his presence swallowing the room. "I need every senior officer in the briefing room. Now." No one argued. They scattered instantly, hands shaking as they punched in numbers and whispered urgent orders into radios. 10 minutes later, the FBI's top brass packed into the giant briefing hall. Trump stood at the podium, gripping its sides, eyes sweeping across the room with surgical focus. Then he spoke. "I have one question for all of you." His voice was calm, but it sliced through the air like a blade. Who in this room actually deserves to be here? A ripple of discomfort tore through the hall. "Too many people in this agency wear badges they never earned," he continued. "Too many hide behind their titles while innocent Americans pay the price." His voice hardened. Not anymore. The silence was suffocating. Trump turned to his left. "Director Williams." The FBI director stiffened, smoothing his tie. "Yes, Mr. President." Trump pulled out a folder and slammed it on the table. "Tell me, how does a man with zero field experience become an assistant director?" Williams turned pale. The room collectively forgot how to breathe. "Answer me," Trump said. His voice suddenly razor-sharp. "Sir, did you, or did you not, appoint someone wildly unqualified to a position of power?" Dead silence. Every eye locked onto Trump and the shaking director. Finally, Williams exhaled. "Mr. President, there are internal processes." "Enough." Trump's tone hit like a gavel. He looked to a Secret Service agent. "Escort him out." Gasps shot across the room. "Mr. President, please." Williams' voice cracked, his hand trembling. Trump didn't blink. The moment the agent grabbed Williams by the arm, reality sank in. This wasn't symbolic. This wasn't political theater. Trump was ripping out the raw live. In real time. As Williams vanished through the doorway, Trump addressed the stunned officials. "Let me make something very clear," he said, voice low and steady. "This is not politics. This is justice." He stepped closer. "There are criminals in this very room wearing suits instead of ski masks, and I intend to find every last one of them." Someone in the back audibly gasped. Then Trump dropped the line that chilled the entire building. "We are going to war against corruption, and I don't care who I have to take down to do it." No one moved. No one breathed. The door slammed shut behind the ousted director, and the room felt colder. Trump's gaze fell back on the remaining officials. His expression gave nothing away, but his eyes blazed with unmistakable resolve. Trump let the room sit in suffocating silence before speaking. I'm giving every single one of you a chance, he said slowly. Tell me right now who here has something to hide. Not a sound. A few officials shifted uncomfortably. Others clenched their fists under the table. The guilt in the room was so thick it felt visible. Trump lifted the folder he'd slammed down earlier and began flipping through it. These documents, he said, prove that certain agents in this room have been targeting innocent Americans, false arrests, intimidation tactics, entire lives destroyed. A sharp gasp came from the corner. Trump's eyes shot up. Agent Samuels. Agent Samuels went pale on the spot. You led a raid last month on a man named Henry Kessler, Trump said. You accused him of espionage. Do you know where he is now? Samuels swallowed. I don't know, sir. Trump's voice turned to ice. He's dead. The room fell into a deafening stillness. He died in a holding cell. Trump continued, waiting for a trial that never even started. And now, I want to know why. Samuels trembled. He scanned the room, desperate for someone to step in, but no one dared move. I was following orders, he whispered. Trump nodded slowly. Whose orders? Samuels hesitated. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Tell me now, Trump warned, or I'll assume this blood is on your hands. A single tear escaped down Samuels's cheek. His head dropped. Deputy Director Hensley, he breathed. Every head snapped toward Hensley, a man with decades inside the bureau. He didn't even blink. That's absurd, Hensley said flatly. Trump didn't break eye contact. You authorized the raid, didn't you? Hensley smirked. With all due respect, Mr. President, you have no authority to... Trump raised another document and held it up for all to see. This, he said, is your signature. The color drained from Hensley's face. He was caught, and he knew it. Trump stepped toward him slowly, never taking his eyes off him. I'll ask you once. Why did you sign off on that raid? Hensley clenched his jaw. Mr. President, why? Trump's voice thundered, shaking the room. Hensley finally cracked. Because. His voice was barely audible. Because he knew too much. The room erupted in horrified murmurs. Trump's stare sharpened. What did he know? Hensley glanced at his hands, then at the other agents. He knew his career and his freedom were done. There's a network inside the bureau, he admitted. A hidden group, manipulating cases, framing innocent people. His voice wavered. Kessler found out. Trump closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they burned with fury. You didn't just silence him, he said softly. You murdered him. Hensley had nothing left to say. Take him away, Trump ordered. Secret Service agents grabbed him. Tears streamed down the faces of several officials as they watched the disgraced deputy director dragged from the room. They knew this was only the beginning. When the doors shut behind Hensley, the weight of the moment hit like a crushing blow. The air felt tight. Some agents stared at their hands. Others tried and failed to keep their composure. Trump stood at the front, arms crossed, expression unreadable. If you think this is over, he said, you're wrong. A tremor of whispers rippled across the hall. Trump turned to Agent Daniels, a veteran with more than 20 years in the bureau. Daniels, he said firmly, how long have you suspected this corruption? Daniels hesitated. Mr. President, tell me the truth. Daniels swallowed hard. His voice cracked. A long time, sir. Trump's jaw tightened. And you said nothing? Tears filled Daniels's eyes. I was scared, he confessed. They were powerful. They threatened my family. Mr. President, they told me if I spoke, my wife and kids would... Trump raised his hand, stopping him. For the first time, the room saw something they never expected. Trump's eyes glistening. He turned to his security detail. Get his family under federal protection, right now. Agent Daniels broke into tears. No one in the room had ever witnessed anything like this. The President of the United States stepping straight into the heart of the corruption they'd all whispered about, and fighting it head on. Trump reached for another file. This one heavier, darker, more ominous. These, he said, flipping through the pages, are reports of missing Americans. Dozens of them. And guess what? Every single one had an FBI file attached before they disappeared. Gasps rippled across the room. Mr. President, What exactly are you implying? One agent finally asked. Trump didn't blink. I'm saying there's a group operating inside this bureau, he replied. Not just corrupt officials, something far darker. A covert operation that labels innocent Americans as threats, and then erases them. A shiver ran through the hall. That's impossible, someone protested. We would have known. Trump turned toward him. Would you? He shot back. Because I just fired the second highest official in this entire building, and not one of you had the slightest clue what he was doing. Silence. Then Agent Parker, one of the oldest men in the room, rose to his feet. His hands trembled. Mr. President, he said, voice cracking, my brother disappeared last year. The room collapsed into stunned quiet. And just like that, the truth began to unravel. He was a school teacher, sir, Parker continued. No enemies, no criminal record. One morning he left for work, and he never came home. Trump nodded. What did the FBI tell you? Parker clenched his fists. That they had no leads, he said bitterly. I work here. I know how this place works. They had leads. They just never gave them to me. A tear slipped down his cheek. He wiped it quickly. Trump inhaled deeply. Parker, do you trust me? The agent hesitated, then nodded with everything inside him. Trump reached into his jacket, pulled out a document, and slid it across the table. Parker's hands shook as he opened it. His breath caught. It was a file with his brother's name on it. Stamped across the cover in bold red, classified disappearance. He looked up, tears streaming. Trump nodded solemnly. I'm going to find him, he promised. And I'm going to bring every one of these people down. For the first time in years, the agents in that room felt something they thought they'd lost. Hope. Parker gripped the file, his whole body trembling. Do you want the truth? Trump asked quietly. Parker swallowed hard. Yes, sir. Then follow me. The room held its breath as Trump walked toward a steel door in the corner, an area so restricted that even veteran agents had never been inside. Secret Service stepped forward, punching in codes. A heavy metallic click echoed. The door creaked open. Beyond it stretched a dim, narrow hallway. No one spoke. Then Trump stepped inside. Parker followed. Daniels followed. The group moved forward, the sound of their footsteps echoing through the suffocating silence. At the end of the hall stood another reinforced door. Trump turned to Parker. Your brother isn't dead, he said. He was taken. Here. Parker's heart pounded. Taken by who? Trump exhaled. By people who don't want America to know the truth. With a nod, he ordered the door opened. What they saw changed everything. The door groaned as it swung inward, revealing a cavernous underground facility. Rows of steel-red cells lined the walls. Inside them, people. Real, living, breathing people. Some wore tattered clothes. Others sat silently in the corners, eyes hollow, as if time itself had forgotten them. They had been here for years. Parker's breath hitched. He couldn't process what he was seeing. Welcome, Trump said grimly, to the place where innocent Americans are erased. Parker stumbled forward, scanning the faces. Where is he? He whispered. Where's my brother? A weak voice came from the back of a cell. Nathan. Parker froze. His entire body trembled. Ben? He choked. He ran to the cell, gripping the bars. It was him, his brother alive. Tears streamed down Parker's face. They told me you were dead, he sobbed. Ben's tired eyes locked onto his. They tried, he whispered. They tried to make me disappear. Trump placed a steady hand on Parker's shoulder. Not today. He turned to the Secret Service. Get these people out, every last one of them. Agents rushed in, unlocking cells. For the first time in years, the prisoners saw hope. As the rescued men and women emerged from the underground hell, chaos exploded inside the FBI building. Whispers multiplied. News spread like wildfire. Something historic was happening. Trump stood at the entrance as medics rushed in to help the freed prisoners. His face was stone hard, focused. Then the media arrived. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted, Mr. President, what is happening here? Networks cut from their regular programming. Breaking news. President Trump uncovers secret FBI prison. Trump watched the frenzy, but he wasn't finished. He turned to Daniels and Parker. I need that list. Daniels hesitated. Sir. What list? Trump's expression darkened. The names of the people responsible. A heavy silence fell. Parker stepped forward with a small folded document. His hands shook. This is everyone involved, Mr. President. Trump unfolded it. 3 names jumped out immediately. All high-ranking officials. One of them, the current FBI director. The realization hit like thunder. Trump's grip tightened. They thought they could hide in the shadows. He muttered. Not anymore. He turned and marched back inside. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. Trump stormed through the halls. Agents froze as he passed. Everyone had heard. The president had a list. Inside the command room, 3 men sat pale and sweating. They knew what was about to hit them. Trump entered. Silence fell like a hammer. He placed the document on the table, slow, deliberate. Then, your names are on this list, he said calmly. The FBI director twitched. Mr. President, Trump slammed his fist on the table. Enough! The room jolted. You sat here wearing your suits pretending to serve the American people, Trump said, anger thick in his voice. While innocent men and women were locked in cages under your orders. The director opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Do you know what I saw down there? Trump demanded, voice cracking. Fathers ripped away from their children. Mothers stolen from their families. Americans erased. Some agents wiped away tears. Trump leaned in, voice dropping to a cold whisper. It's over. Then he issued the command. Arrest them. Handcuffs clicked. The corrupt officials were dragged out as the entire FBI building fell silent. For the first time, they weren't afraid to speak the truth. Agent Parker watched as the director, the man who had lied to him for years, was shoved into a police vehicle. Tears streamed down his face. Trump walked over and rested a hand on his shoulder. You did it, Trump said. Parker shook his head. No, sir, you did. If you hadn't come today, my brother would have died down there. Trump's expression softened. No more good people will suffer, he promised. A roar erupted outside. Thousands of Americans had gathered waving flags, holding signs chanting, USA, USA, USA. Trump stepped onto the steps, facing the roaring sea of people. We took the first step toward justice, he declared. The crowd exploded in cheers. Families reunited. People sobbed openly. Parker held his brother in a shaking embrace. Nearby, Agent Daniels whispered into the phone. They're safe. The president made sure they're safe. Trump watched the reunions, his expression unreadable. This moment was different. This moment mattered. An elderly former prisoner approached him. Frail, trembling, with tears in her eyes. She took Trump's hand. You saved my life, she whispered. For the first time, Trump's eyes glistened. But he wasn't finished. Inside the conference room, Trump and his team reviewed every document, every false charge, every corrupt deal. We need arrests, Trump said. Every single person involved. One by one, names were called. Agents were cuffed. Officials who believed they were untouchable were hauled out of their offices. News cameras captured everything. Trump walked the halls as the bureau transformed before his eyes. Honest agents, real patriots, stepped forward. The FBI was being reborn. Parker approached him. Mr. President, he said, voice steady. We're with you. Daniels nodded. All of us. Trump took a deep breath, the weight of history pressing on his shoulders. Then let's finish this. And just like that, the deep rot inside the FBI began to die. The world would never forget this day. For the first time in decades, America felt hope again. Outside, thousands cheered, flags waved, reporters pushed forward. Mr. President, what do you say to those who doubted you? Trump offered a small, tired smile. I don't blame them, he said. The system was broken. But today, we fixed it. Another shouted, what happens now? Trump's expression hardened. Now, he said, we rebuild, we protect America, and we make sure this never happens again. The crowd erupted. People hugged each other. They chanted his name. Some fell to their knees, crying. Trump turned to Parker, Daniels, and the agents who had stood beside him. You stood up when it mattered most, he told them. America will never forget you. Parker saluted, tears in his eyes. We'll never forget you either, sir. As the American flag waved high over the building, Trump turned back to the crowd. This day wasn't about him. It was about the country he loved. And today, for the first time in a long time, that country was free again.